Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good evening, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. It's good to see everyone here tonight. Thanks for everybody for popping in this morning and celebrating the happy birthday with us here at the lifeboat. It was fun to celebrate the 4 months that we've been officially at sea, so to speak. Seems like it's been way more than 4 months, doesn't it? Seems like it's like we've been doing this a really long time. Or maybe it's just me, but it really, to me, feels like we've been at this a long, long time. But I feel like we've gotten a lot done. I feel like we've come a long way, and it's exciting. It really is. It's cool to be sitting at the helm of this boat and this channel and watching all the different people that are coming here and working on where they're at in life. It's pretty exciting stuff. Tonight we're going to be talking about a subject that you would think I probably should have talked about a long time ago, but it's funny. You kind of get rolling in things, and one thing will jump up. I probably have had this on the to-do list, I don't know, 10 or 15 times, and then something will come up and it'll sort of take the the boat in a different direction for a while, and then the next thing I've forgotten it, and I make a new list. And but this is a technique that is become really popular in the last, decade or so. And you've probably heard it talked about in other places. People talk about emotions as they sort of at different vibrations. And there are people who believe that the vibration thing is mumbo jumbo. And then there's people that believe that the vibration thing is absolutely key. And I'll be honest, it doesn't matter to me which side of the road you go on this. But the technique itself works. This is something that has really benefited large groups of people. The question becomes whether or not you can deal with how simple it is. Because truthfully, oftentimes as people, we look for something that's going to be, if something is too simple, we tend to dismiss it out of hand. We think about things that it's got to be difficult or it's not beneficial, which is just, ludicrous. If you think about it, there are a great many things that the execution of might be very difficult, but the concept is quite simple. For instance, the Ironman triathlon. You're going to swim, you're going to bike, you're going to run. Doesn't take a whole lot of time to explain that, does it? There's not a whole lot that you have to think about. Same thing with a marathon, right? Now you're going to go out there, you're going to run 24 miles or 26 miles or something, 200 yards. It's not a very complex concept. However, the execution of going out there and actually running for hours nonstop at a really good pace is something that is daunting just to wrap your brain around. So today we're going to talk about a 5-step method of letting go. And these 5 steps are pretty basic stuff. But before we get too rolling in it, one of the things that we've been talking about a lot lately is emotion. and whether or not your emotions, dictate things going on in your life, or things going on in your life dictate your emotions, and sort of going back and forth on these things. Um, the idea that we're going to describe today, and the 5 steps that we're going to describe as a way to let things go, um, again, fairly simple. Where you run into trouble with this is if you allow something to become so ingrained that you develop a story, and that story becomes hardwired into you. Because our emotions, if you think about emotions in a way that how you amass all of these things, and you sort of file them away, what I mean, almost like a filing cabinet, and you have a filing cabinet of all of these different emotions. You can manipulate your brain to do things around emotions that are not particularly difficult to do. However, if you're trying to manipulate and get rid of a story, this becomes a much more difficult phenomenon. And as we've spoken about a lot recently, how something can go from a mood, where you just get up in the morning and something happens and it kind of puts you into a bad mood. Well, that can go all the way from a bad mood to a bad disposition, and then eventually a bad personality trait. Well, it's the same principle with the story. If you wind up divorced, nobody enjoys divorce. There's nobody out there, even if it's a great divorce, even if it's something that you're very happy to be out of the relationship, and it's much healthier for you to not be married. Divorce is a difficult thing, and you have to deal with the emotion of all that. However, if you create a great story behind that, as part of that divorce, well, she went out and she did this, and she did this, and she did this, and then that happened, and she did this, and you build this thing up to where it's no longer even about this person, and it's no longer about the separation of 2 people who at one time seemed to love one another. Now it's a story, and that story becomes bulletproof. And very oftentimes, as human beings, we can convince ourselves that something is a story, and that story somehow affects us, even if truthfully and honestly, it's got nothing to do with us. You can become hardwired to dislike someone or something, and then attach a story to that. And it can literally become so all encompassing that it becomes part of your daily life, to the point where you can't break it away. This story that you create starts to dictate everything that you do. Mark, sounds crazy, doesn't it? But this is the kind of thing that happens, right? These stories become ingrained to a point that the next thing you know, you can't get off of that emotion, because it's no longer an emotion. Now it's a story, and that story gets hardwired into your personality, and it becomes part of who you are. And the story then slides into becoming a mission. And my mission is to hate my ex-wife for the rest of the time that I'm on this planet. I mean, she cheated on me, and the guy she cheated with, this guy was a drug dealer, or whatever your story that you attach to this thing. That story becomes a defining characteristic in your life. And you'll meet people, and you start to talk to them and get to know these people. And there's like, 6, maybe 8 great stories in this person's life. And all of them, they have a very pivotal role in. And that role is almost always the role of victim. And if you allow yourself to become a victim, trust me, it's by choice. I don't mean that somebody comes up and robs you at gunpoint, you're a victim. But what you do with that after the fact, if you spend every minute of every day for the rest of your life talking and concentrating about the fact that you got robbed on your way to the subway, then that becomes a larger ingrained part of who you are. And that emotion is going to dictate, and that story rather, is going to dictate the emotions that you go through forever. And that event that happened to you one time, and believe me, it doesn't even have to happen to you. It can be an event that happened to somebody else, and you jump on the bandwagon. This is where you see the mob mentality, where people talk about things that truthfully have nothing to do with them, but it becomes so hardwired, it becomes such a part of their story. And that story shapes their emotion day to day. And a lot of times these poor people realize that this is going on, but can't get away from it. It is now so much a part of who they are that it is their identity, which is terrifying. But it is a absolute fact. And this is one of those things that becomes hardwired. So what you got to do if you're trying to let something go, we've spoken about the refractory period, right? Something happens to you, and there is a period of time that you allow whatever it is that happened to affect you, to dictate your emotions. If it happens for 4 or 5 hours, it puts you in a bad mood. If it happens for 4 or 5 weeks, right? then it's going to start to change the personality. And if it happens for 4 or 5 years, then you're done. This really becomes something that dictates your entire life. And there are people who allow this to happen, as sad as this is. So the first step in this process of letting go is to evaluate exactly where you're at. Sounds really simple, yes? What you're doing is evaluating where you're at in terms of feelings. Now, if we're going to do this, you got to look at feelings in general, right? Emotions. And they come in 3 categories. Now, by the way, if you look up emotions, you can find about 75 to 160 different emotions, depending on which psychologist wants to write them out. And there's a lot of hair splitting in there, people. There's an awful lot of just breaking this into the umpteenth degree of the minorest change between one type of pride and another type of pride and hubris. And look, we're going to keep this simple because it makes a lot more sense. So we're going to talk about this. Think about it in terms of going from bad to good, right? So we're going to start at the bottom of the food chain. And when you're at the bottom of the food chain, what you're going to be looking at is fear, guilt, shame, and anger, right? Now, you can say anger really encompasses a lot of those other ones. I realize that, people. But the reason that I have it listed the way we do is because sometimes the anger is against somebody or something that wasn't even part of a situation that you were in. You can get angry at something that happened in the political arena, and it can become a mission and a part of your life that you identify with so much that it is now you. That is a little bit different than fear and guilt and all of the others. But those are the big 4: fear, guilt, shame, and anger. And that is at the bottom of the food chain. Those are the emotions that we will refer to from this point on, for the sake of today, as bad emotions, because they don't do lovely things in the body. They don't do lovely things in the mind. Those are not healthy emotions. They're bad emotions, okay, for the purpose of today's illustration. Then we have the mid-row emotions. These are the ones that fall into the middle, and they're really not good, not bad. They're there, right? They're these are where you hang out on your way to either good emotions or bad emotions. And these are things like pride, courage, acceptance, willingness, and then finally, the term that they use to sort of throw them all into one category, and that category is neutral. Because as these happen, they're not good, they're not bad, they're just there. You can be proud. Pride can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing, but depending on how it ends up used. So these are the neutral emotions. And then we get to the top of the food chain. This is really where, in a perfect world, this is where people hang out all day, every day, 365 days a year, and you would just be living in bliss. Is that realistic? Hell no. That's just not how we're hardwired. It's not how we live. It's not how we work. Our brain reacts to things, and it's designed to do just that, react to things. And we've talked about this in the last couple of live feeds, how a lot of it is just for self-preservation and protection, going all the way back to the very beginning of man. There's emotions that protected us from a large bear that was coming to disassemble you, or any other long list of things that could cause us harm. But at the top of the food chain, where we would all kind of like to hang out, we have love, joy, peace. Those are the big 3. And then reason. So you see at the top, we have reason. In the middle, we have neutral. And in the bottom, we've got that category of just unhealthy, right? These are the unhealthy emotions. So at the top, we have love, we have joy, and we have peace. If you're feeling those 3 or any one or combination of those 3, life is probably pretty good. But if you feel like you're getting out of whack, if you feel like things aren't good, and you know what it is you're holding on to, doesn't matter whether you know or you don't know. But if you know what you're holding on to, or you don't know what you're holding on to, the first step is always the same. Evaluate exactly where you are and what you're feeling. So you sit 2 seconds. This is literally that fast an exercise. And you say, what am I feeling? What am I feeling right now? Well, I'm feeling guilty. This is what I did. And there's all of this stuff that, that is weighing down on me because I obviously messed up. And whatever the emotion happens to be, whether it be guilt, shame, anger, whatever, evaluate. The second step is to sit. And normally what they tell you is sit in silence for about 10 minutes. You don't have to meditate if you're not someone that's into it. If you are into meditation, great. Concentrate on your breathing. Try to keep too many thoughts out of your head, but take about 10 minutes. The reason for this is, think about it as cleaning the palate between courses. right? You want to, instead of concentrating on the emotion that you're trying to dump overboard, that you're trying to get rid of, we want you to just clear that palate. Sit there for a second and just take anything in. Breathe, relax, 10 minutes. The next of the steps is going to be to ask yourself, can I allow this feeling? Now, this may sound silly, right? But when you put this into your mind, obviously you're already allowing the feeling, right? But when you say to yourself and you sit and concentrate on the process of saying, can I feel this anger? Right? The next logical thing that's going to happen in your brain is your brain is going to slide from emotion, right, to reason. You are going to, that small, subtle thing that you do, which sounds like, come on, Captain, this is way too silly. No. When you go from evaluating the emotion that you're in to asking yourself, can I allow this feeling? You go from emotion to intellect. You are asking your brain to stop doing what it's doing and to start analytically looking at the feeling. It may sound very, very basic, but it works. When you articulate within your own mind the question, can I feel this emotion? You're no longer just feeling the emotion. Now what you're doing is analyzing the emotion. And we have talked about this ad nauseum, right? On two sides of the equation, you've got the subconscious, you've got the conscious, and right in the middle is that analytical mind. That is reason. That is all of the things that you want if you're trying to not allow emotion to dictate how you feel and how you are doing without your control. So that third step is pivotal. Can I allow this feeling? Now, after you have decided, yes, I can allow this feeling, no, I can't allow this feeling, and it doesn't much make a difference what you do, because again, it's an exercise in getting your brain to shift from the emotional part or the reactionary part of the brain to the analytical part of the brain, the part that actually makes decisions and does what it is supposed to do. It's you getting control of the gray matter. And people, you got to realize something. The gray matter, if you believe in evolution, and you don't have to, right? But there is a part of our brain that separates us from reptiles, from all of the other animals on the planet. And it is the front of our brain. It is the part that does all of the analytical stuff, right? The reptilian part of the brain, the stuff there at the very bottom, which protects you from, bad things that are about to happen. If you look at a snake, or if you look at a lizard or anything like that, and they see a shadow overhead, there's a pretty good chance that's a large bird that wants to come down there and swallow them up. They're going to find a place to hide, right? That thing is going to go skidding underneath a rock as fast as possible. It's not going to get under that rock and go, boy, I made a pretty good decision getting away from that bird, right? I wonder if it was a mean bird. I wonder if that bird was hungry. Let's see, it's about 11 in the afternoon. Chances are he got up this morning. He's probably hungry, right? No, that's us. That is unique to us as human beings. The part of the brain that does all of that heavy duty evaluation and thinking, that's so unique to human beings. The rest of the animal kingdom isn't wondering whether or not the animal that wants to attack it is a nice animal or a bad animal, or, that is a realm that we live in that other animals do not. You understand? So what we're trying to do is force the thought process from that reaction part that would skitter us under a rock and push us into the part that is asking the questions that are essential. So we do the, can I allow this feeling? The fourth is, could I let this go? You're asking yourself now, okay, I've identified this and I've said, yeah, I could probably feel this emotion. I'm cool with that. Now, could I let this go? Is this something that I have to hold on to? Pardon me. Or is this something that I could just let go? Now, how much time you spend doing this is completely up to you. Honestly, in theory, if you get good at this, this is one of those things that these 5 steps you can bang out so fast that it's almost incredible. And the people that are really good at it, within 15 minutes, no matter how bad something is really jacking with them, they can take this, evaluate it, and then get it out of their lives and move on. Letting go, right, becomes a skill that you can do, and that you can do it very, very quickly. Snakes are my friends. Scorpions are my friends. Why am I not surprised, Oculi? Maybe it's because I've seen, I don't know, you have that look. You look like you might dig snakes. Personally, I'm terrified of both. I don't like snakes, and I do not like scorpions. Worse than both, spiders. Not a fan of spiders. But oculi, you're a bad man. I would be terrified of both of those, really. The snake thing, because it has no arms, and just the way the thing moves is just downright creepy. And the scorpion thing just has that stinger, and that just seems, I don't know, there's something prehistoric and really ugly about the whole. Anyway, I digress. So to start at the top, because before we get to the last one, let's recap real quick. You're going to evaluate exactly where you are. What emotion are you in? Figure out, step one, what emotion you are in. I am feeling guilt. Number two, sit and do nothing. Get everything out of your, I hate snakes, he says, okay. Get everything out of your head. You're going to sit, and you don't have to call it meditation. You're just going to clear the brain. You're just going to stop allowing the emotion to dictate, and do that for a 10-minute period of time. Step three, you are going to say, can I allow this feeling? You are going to push yourself from the reaction part of the brain to the analytical part of the brain by just asking yourself, can I feel this? Then the next step is, could I let this go? Do I have to hold on to this? Could I let this go? You're always going to come up with the answer. 99.9% of the time, you're going to come up with the answer that, yes, of course I can let this go. And then the very last step is, would I let this go? You could also rephrase that a different way if you want. The reason that the people in psychology don't is because they like to say can, could, would, right? For the last three steps, can I, would I? I mean, can I, could I, would I? It's, there's something nice about the ring to it. But the last thing is, would I let this go? Answering that yes, and going through this process is the most simple, basic way to take something that is affecting you and to let it go. Also, one of the things that they recommend is to get a visual image in your head of something that you visualize actually letting go. There are people for whom they will get a visual in their head of holding this emotion as if it's a hand holding on the over the side of a bridge, right, or over the side of a building, and you're holding on to this vicious thing that's bothering you, whether it's whether it's fear or guilt or shame or whatever's causing it. You realize, people, that I'm not giving you examples of whatever was causing the guilt, but it's going to not just be, okay, oh, so I'm feeling guilt. You're going to say, I took that money and, I never, fessed up, and I never did this, or whatever, from your past is causing the guilt or the anger. This person said this, right? This person did that. And that is what is causing the anger. But you visualize actually letting go of this. And it's funny because today I was getting some text messages from Amy, Yahusha's disciple. And as most of you know, she is helping out a daughter on the East Coast. Her daughter was having some health trouble. And she's been out in, I believe, the DC area, sort of helping her out. And she was sending me a text because she is on the 2-week mark, people. She's been sober 2 weeks today and is just couldn't be happier about it, And she said it was a very cool text because she said, life is still happening. There are things that are making life tough, and that's sort of the nature of what we do. But she's doing it sober and feels fantastic. Was basically jumping for joy, and said God is good, and she's super happy. And she said that she started talking about the show we had just done concerning resolutions and the fact that I was starting my resolutions a little early. And she liked the visual image of throwing it overboard. And, I got to be honest, people, I absolutely love that. If you're going to visualize getting rid of one of these emotions and one of these baggages that is weighing you down, I love the visual image of tossing that thing over the side of the boat. All of us, whether you've been on a ship or not, the scene from Titanic where they're shooting from the front and you're seeing the water just rush by the hull of that boat to take your cares, your worries, your stresses, whatever it is that you are holding on to and refusing to let go, just flick it over the side. Because there's something about how when that thing hits the water, it's 400 yards away before you even get a visual on it. You're traveling, the water's traveling, it is gone. It is far as east from west. It is just out of there, right? Um, People, this is a skill that if you truthfully work on and you develop, it will change your life. So many people in this world walk around day in, day out with some pet, whatever you want to call it, a pet emotion, a pet feeling, a pet grieve, right? A pet peeve, whatever the title you want to give it. But they grab onto this and they never let go. There are people for whom it becomes their identity, right? We all know somebody like this. You all know somebody where if you say, do you know, I need a name that no one here possibly has. That would be a good one. How about Lester? I don't believe we have a Lester anywhere near this boat, do we, Mark? There are no Lesters. Well, do you guys know Lester? Right? And you go, yeah, I know Lester. My goodness, man. All that dude does is talk about how bad he hates the president, or all that dude does is talk about this, or all that dude does is talk about that. People, I said before, right? We don't talk about politics here, but isn't it a great example? Right? Whether or not you believe that the last election was groovy or whether or not you believe it was stolen, I guarantee you that you know somebody whose identity has become exactly that. Every Facebook post they put up, every tweet they do, every single, if they do anything, it's going to have something in there about how they love this president or they hate this president. And that is it. It is their identity. If you allow the story, and if you allow something that you can't seem to let go to become your identity, look, again, I don't care which side of this you fall on, but it was how many years ago now, right? Okay, it's over. I don't think one way or the other it's going to get fixed. If you think it needs to be fixed or if you think it doesn't need to be fixed, it's too late. But I'm telling you, there's nobody in here. If I could watch you now on the deck of the boat, and I say, do you know somebody who literally has allowed this to become who they are? Everybody would have a hand go up. Because that's just the nature of what it is these days. This is another one of the symptoms of what's going on in the country. It's not enough these days, and they're becoming so much better at training us, right? Separate us into two camps. You could pick any other subject, right? Any other subject that divides the country, and you know somebody whose opinion on it has become their personality, right? It has become their cause du jour. It has become something that for the rest of their time on this planet, it's going to be something that is their daily focus. And I'll tell you something, people, it's sad. I don't care how much it means to you. It's sad. If you're allowing one thing that truthfully doesn't affect you, right? We find ways to take something that has happened in this world and to personalize it in a way that takes it to a level that isn't normal. You understand? This rises to a level that isn't normal and isn't healthy. Now, I use that as the ultimate example of something because everybody knows something along those lines. But pick anything else, right? Go back to that wife I was talking about, or that husband I was talking about, and you get the divorce. And it's just like the people who choose the politics. Hey, if you run into Lester, good God, I don't want to hear about his divorce again. I swear to you, man, right? The man's been divorced 11 years. Every time I talk to him, he's got something to say about, whoever, Katie, right? That person rents space in that person's head. That political party rents space in that person's head, and something that has nothing to do with you anymore. Chances are Lester's wife has moved on, right? She's not concentrating on any of this garbage. She probably doesn't even realize that her ex is out there just obsessing nonstop, 24 hours a day. People, please do yourself a favor. Don't allow anything to take over your life. And look, people, make no mistake about it. I'm concentrating on fear, guilt, shame, and anger, right? It doesn't have to be on that end of the spectrum. There are people for whom Al Bundy, you remember old Al Bundy? Come on. All right, we're old. My bobble-headed brother, his head is nodding viciously because he's old enough to remember Al Bundy. What was the name of that show? It was Married with Children, right? Married with Children. Al Bundy was a shoe salesman. who had a sort of a very, run-of-the-mill kind of life. He was never happy with his wife. He had kids that drove him crazy. He worked selling shoes and wasn't happy with it. But he would come home, put one hand slightly down his waistband, and he would watch TV, and it was all he wanted in life. But if you gave Al a chance, he was going to tell you about the 4 touchdowns that he scored in a football game, one game, right, at Polk High. This became the defining characteristic of this man's life. It was who he, his life and his character had become that. And this is a guy, what? He was probably pushing 40 something in that series. But if you asked Al about anything, he'd say, well, did you ever hear the story of Al? And his hands would instantly go up to the, scored 4 touchdowns in one game. It doesn't necessarily even have to be negative. There are positive things that happen to people that become their identity. People, your identity should be who you are. It shouldn't be what happened to you or what happened to someone else or what happened to a political party, right? So oftentimes people become so ingrained that they honestly believe that it's their responsibility to bear the torch for this political party or that political party. I am the person who's going to take it to the other party. This is going to be my life. For the rest of my time on this planet, I'm going to make sure that everybody heard how the voter rolls were played with or how the blah, blah, blah. How is it affecting your life? If you're spending even 10% of your waking hours thinking about something other than what is happening, when people say live in the moment, are you living in the moment? Seriously? Or are you living on the last election? Or are you living in Polk High, the day that you scored 4 touchdowns? Let it go. Let it go. There really is something to be said for living in the moment. 357. Boy, is it good watching you. Seeing you. It's awesome, man. I haven't seen 357 in a while. Send me a lovely email the other day. Good to see you, my brother. It's one of those things that very easily can become the defining thing in your life. You all know somebody who, if they bring up the name, right, the first thing you go to, hey, seen Lester? Oh, thank God, no. Or if the phone rings, I'm not picking up the phone because he's going to tell me about such and such. He's going to spend 45 minutes talking about this, which happened what? 4.5, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 9 years ago. If that's how you want your life to be, it is your right to live that way. But take the 5 steps, right? Evaluate where you're at. Let's see. I'm really, really angry about an election that happened in what year? Okay. Take 10 minutes to sit and clear the palate. The next question will be, can I allow this feeling? Yeah, you've been allowing this feeling for how many years? And honestly, to sit and do this, people, you realize that you're getting the brain out of the emotion and the logical. And you will start thinking things like, my word, how long have I been thinking this? How long have I been allowing this to dictate my life? This is all I do. I only go to sites that talk about it. I only read things that preach the same thing that I like. How much of my day and my life is spent on this subject? And the saddest thing about picking a pet hate or a pet, what's the word I'm looking for? A pet cause. The saddest part of doing that is you're going to find a whole crew of friends that do the same thing, right? They're out there. So you've got people to validate the ridiculousness in your life. They're going to, oh, yeah, you're right. That thing got stolen. Or, yeah, you're right. He did win. All those people that say it got stolen, those guys are idiots. And you just got people to sit and sort of feed that and feed that and feed that. One of the things you will notice when you let go of anything and you start concentrating on being positive, or you start concentrating on making it change, you start concentrating on anything other than what was your pet blah, you're going to attract a new group of people. You know what they're all going to have in common? The fact that they're working to better themselves, the fact that they have a positive attitude. Make no mistake about it, people. What you put out is what you attract, right? It's the law of attraction. Whether you believe in it or not, There's a reason all of us are here, right? We're all on the lifeboat. There's a reason all of us are here. There's a reason that you got drawn in. Granted, tons of people stop by. Why do you keep coming back? Because the people here speak to something that is positive, that you find solace in, right? And it's everyday individuals who are concentrating on one simple concept. And that concept is, it is better to be at the top of this in the land of love, joy, peace, and reason than it is to be at fear, guilt, shame, hate, and anger. Pretty simple concept, right? Pretty simple concept. Now, if you find yourself in the middle, it's all good, right? Those are transitory feelings. You're going to be there for a minute, and then you're probably going to pop back up into the positive, or you're going to spend a little bit of time in the negative. You realize the purpose of this, right, folks? The purpose of this is to minimize the amount of time that you spend in the blah and spend more time in the woohoo, right? That's what we're shooting for. It's pretty simple, but that is what we are shooting for. This 5-step method, and I'm sure that with the exception of Charlie Mullins, who feels pretty bad about the whole Vegemite thing, and because of that was probably taking notes, but the rest of you probably weren't. So have no fear, this will be here forever. You will have the opportunity to go back and watch this because these 5 steps work. I promise you they do. If you don't believe me, give it a try, right? Don't ever take anything on face value, but give it a try. Try these 5 steps and see if you don't go, well, I'll be damned. The emotion that was dragging me down and making me feel a certain way is gone. Thrown off the side of the boat. We can call it 6 steps because I think it's awesome if you visualize it. Just visualize tossing that thing overboard. Just getting that thing out, gone. Hell, put an anchor on it if it makes you feel better. I don't know, though. I kind of like the anchor. Yeah, I don't know. It's up to you. Get rid of it. Visualize tossing it out of your life and watch what happens. People, I also want to say that I was talking to my bobbleheaded brother before I got rolling. And as you guys probably know, I am getting ready to have my eyes fixed, which is good. It will probably get rid of some of this squinting. But because of that, I haven't been keeping the tight rein on the 14 pair of reading glasses that I normally have around. I'm exaggerating, people. I only have 6. But I have 6 identical pair of reading glasses that I try to keep in 6 different places so that no matter where I'm at, there's always one close. Because if I carry it, I lose it. Amazingly, there's not one of those 6 here. And I was telling Mark right before I got rolling that my eyes are just getting worse by the day. And for that reason, I am not going to be reading a letter this evening that I am going to be reading tomorrow night. And it's absolutely amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's not a feel-good letter, people, but it is an honesty letter at a level that I think will do wonders for changing people. Skipper, back when you were moonlighting as a medical, you gave me a diagnosis of ABS, Al Bundy syndrome. You know something? I actually remember this. I did. I believe I did give you a diagnosis of Al Bundy syndrome. Oh, you know what? I said a lot of funny things back then. I'm so glad that I was able to catch that because you see the squinting. Seven Son, you're a funny guy. You really are. Mark and I were talking about that yesterday. You are a funny guy. That's absolutely awesome. You just made my night. So this letter will be read tomorrow evening, and people don't miss tomorrow night's live feed. I mean it. I'm not going to read it right in the beginning because I want to make sure that everybody is here before I do, but it is one of those things that it's going to help a lot of people. I really believe it's going to help a lot of people. It's someone who just opened up and basically spit out everything going on in their life emotionally, really doing a great deal of what I'm talking about, just letting go. And there's a lot of things in there that are that need to be let go. And I think that writing the letter did wonders for that. People, do you ever wonder why we say write down your goodbye letter? Write down where you're at, write down. You understand the principle, right? when you go from here to here, without this thing in your hand, you can just do the emotional thing, right? Your brain doesn't like to do the emotional thing if you're trying to actually sit and write. When you try to take something and just put your emotions on paper, the analytical mind has to get involved. You can't write emotion. There has to be the analytical mind. Granted, you can still feel emotion and you can sort of spill it onto the page or whatever, but you're activating the part of the brain that works not reactionary, but analytically. You have to in order to pick up this thing and make it work. So when we say things like it's super important to write down your dreams, because a dream becomes a goal when it hits paper, right? Dreams are things that, boy, wouldn't that be great, right? You dream of winning American Idol, right? There are dreams that just, they're not always the most realistic things in the world, but they're awesome and they're great, right? This boat, this channel was a dream, but I promise you people, I wrote it down. I could show it to you. It's that thick. I wrote it for years. Every single thing that I wanted this to be, I wrote. There were times I rewrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it, and it became quite real. The dream became something that was a goal, and it was not something that get rich or die trying. Well, there was no getting rich, but I promise you, it was about building this or dying trying. This was something that I was absolutely going to do, and putting it on paper made it real. You know, it's a pipe dream until you take it and you write it down. Then it becomes a goal. Or if you're feeling hurt and you're just in a bad place, you take that pen and you write that stuff down, and you have engaged the analytical mind in the process of the emotion. And that's really a good thing. But before I turn this over to my bobble-headed brother, I want one last image for you to think of. Think of a computer, right? You got a file in a computer, and you can put pictures from vacations of 25 years and just dump it in that file. No problem, right? You do the same thing with emotions. In our brain, we're doing the same thing. We're filing away these emotions, and we're filing it away and filing it away. Well, what happens if you lost the password to that? If you lose the password to that, then you're not going to have pictures of Cancun 1989, right? All of those things are in that file and they're gone. Using this process literally is like deleting what you were about to stick in a file that was never going to go anywhere. Allowing these things to sit and become a story. When it goes from emotion to story, you have the potential for it to then go to mission, life, right? Don't be that guy. Don't be Lester. We all know a Lester. Mark, you know any Lesters? Yeah, Mark knows a few Lesters. All right, people. I am going to try to scroll, which isn't easy without my glasses on. I love this gig. Mark, how are you today, my brother?
I'm doing all right. Been watching the chat, enjoying that. That's a really good chat tonight. I think it's even though this is a serious thing, we do try to keep it a little bit on the lighter side of things, and I think that helps. And yeah, what name did you use there? Was it you say Lester?
Lester.
Yes. I was thinking more like Elmer, something like that.
There you go. That would work too.
That would work too. Yeah, I don't know any Elmers or anything like that.
No, I don't think I do either.
But with that being said, you get some really good examples there, and I would say this too, especially for our younger crowd. If anybody's here that's younger than, I don't know, younger than dirt, like I am, but yeah, you can kind of relate it to like backing your files up into the cloud. That's kind of what you're doing when you're writing it down. It's there. And it's also another form of accountability we can use. If you write it down, it's there. It ain't going nowhere, especially if you share it with somebody. So that's just something, you don't have to share that kind of stuff with people. But something else I would say too, anytime you can introduce one of your senses, like touch, taste, smell, hearing, sight, the five senses, anytime you can introduce that into any kind of thought process, your brain will remember it so much more. It most definitely will. There's a lot of evidence for that. One of which, your brain will actually remember smell before it remembers anything else.
True story.
That's something that you can work into things like this. Like, say you enjoy a smell or there's a bad smell. If you're writing something down or if you're thinking about something when it comes to letting stuff go, if you introduce either a good smell or a bad smell, it can trigger something in your brain to help you remember that kind of stuff. And then it'll help you get past those kinds of things and being able to let it go. Because if you want it to be a positive thing, put a positive smell around. Look at something good. People say this a lot. Go into your happy place. That kind of a thing. And I think it applies. And you were given examples of like Al Bundy and stuff. And there's another character out there that I often think about because again I'm aging myself here. But the movie Napoleon Dynamite, Uncle Rico.
Yeah,
he's gonna throw that football over that mountain.
That's even better.
Yeah, if only coach could put me in, we'd have won state. I know we'd have won state. That kind of thing. But it's very similar. He's stuck in that spot. He is stuck in that spot, and he's not coming out of it. So much so that he says, "Hey, watch this," and throws a steak and smacks Napoleon in the face with it. Yeah. But I just thought that was a good example because my mind actually goes to that movie. I've watched it so many times because it was from my
awesome.
Yeah, the 80s.
Awesome.
Who can forget glamour shots, friendship bracelets, all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, all the stuff that made the 80s fun, I guess, if you want to go that way with it. But yeah, but I do think as much as we're lighthearted with this is a very serious thing that people need to take seriously. It is, it's just, and what Tommy's done here is he's given you some steps that you can at least try to initiate and to set this stuff in place for yourself and try it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying it. It ain't going to hurt to try anything. A simple breathing exercise, I think Tommy talked about that a little bit too. There is so much evidence for that does so many good things for you. Put your hand on your stomach, feel yourself breathing, calm down, just do it for 10 or 20 seconds. And I'm telling you, it's amazing how simple that is at the same time, how powerful that can be to get you through a situation that is just thrown at you, that you didn't know was coming or anything like that. Take that time. Some people count to 10, all those tricks. Those tricks are being said because they work for somebody at some point. Counting sheep when you go to sleep. I mean, all these kinds of things are all there, and they're not there for no reason. Somebody has done this or at least thought about it, and it's worked. So, not to say that everything's going to work for everybody, but I do think, when you talk about journaling and things like that, that is a very good benefit to all of that. And much of the same thing applies to people that are authors. And they'll take those emotions, and they're the people that are good at putting those emotions onto the paper. And they're tapping into that. They're tapping into something very similar to what we're talking about here. And, so I would encourage people to try their best to initiate as many physical senses that you have into that emotion when you're thinking about it and you're trying to let it go. Or if you're trying to hold on to an emotion, something that feels good, there's the opposite of that also works, I think. And
no question.
And I guess the biggest goal for me is I try to replace those bad with the new. So if you can get yourself to a place with that, and it's a hard thing to get to, let me tell you, because we're all going to live in the negative for at least a minute. I mean, it's the way we're wired. We're not going to. I mean, we would be ridiculous to say, hey, I'm always positive. No, you're not. I know that's negative, but no, you're not. It's just something it's something we fight as human beings, and it's just part of it. But how would we know what was good unless we knew what the bad was? And so we have to recognize it when it is bad and then address it, and then we can focus on the good again. And I think that makes you appreciate the good so much more. Because you don't have to live there. You don't, guys. You don't. You just don't. And take it from somebody, and most of you guys can probably relate. And, I found myself in a spot for a very, very long time. I was stuck in the negative. I was stuck in my house for 3 years. I'm not kidding. I literally, and it led to a severe depression. It led to all these things while I was fighting my addiction, all at the same time. I was in my house because of medical reasons. I mean, I had all the surgeries and stuff. And, guys, let me tell you something. It's not a vacation. Just because you're not working don't mean it's a vacation. So what I'm saying is you can take steps like what we talked about here. If you apply that, the biggest thing is recognizing that you're in that situation. If you can recognize, hey, that's a bad place to be, then we initiate these steps, and that's how you get there. And for me, unfortunately, I was there for about 3 years. And again, I have to say, without my wife and my family, I would probably still be there. Well, I probably would never even have got there because I never would have ever. I'd have been happy artificially, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Chemically, that kind of thing. And we all know that that's temporary, and we all know that's fake. And and that, again, guys, it's just one of those things that this is such a great tool that if you guys, I would really share this with anybody that you could, because not only with the addicts and stuff, this applies to everybody, every situation. It doesn't matter. And that's what, we've been actually trying to build on that on this channel. This isn't just about recovery. It's about building your best life, living your best life, and being able to go that direction with it. And we're trying to, at our best with the topics and with the chat and stuff, to give people at least an avenue to go down. We can't walk it for you, but we can definitely say, hey, go down to the big rock, turn left till you get to the big tree, and then look up. You know what I mean? We can give you landmarks. And I think that that's kind of our role. And, hopefully it doesn't, bring you full circle back to the bad spot. But just remember that in this society today, we are taught so much just to think that everybody's bad. But I'm here to tell you that more than half, it's probably more like 75%, they're good. We just see the negative because that's what affects us the most. I talk about what is a shock scare. If you think back to when you were the most afraid in your life, it was probably something when somebody jumped out and scared you real bad, or you didn't expect it was going to happen. It was a startle scare. When that happens, that's like a traumatic event. So what happened in your brain there? It's exactly what we're talking about here. That is the most you're ever going to be scared. And so if you recognize that and you try to avoid that, you let it go and you just keep moving. But I just think this is a great topic. I think it's going to touch a whole lot of different lives in a whole lot of different ways because everybody's walk is different. They're in a different spot, different time frame, all of that. And I feel fortunate that you guys actually get it because you do. I see it in the chat. I mean,
I'm probably going to run a few minutes over tonight, but I have to because I didn't want to do when I talked about this was make it. I didn't want to make this a drug talk because truthfully and honestly, this, like you just said, this is about living your best life. And I really kind of wanted to hammer home the fact that this works for absolutely everything. But I think it's important to think, people, that when you fall into these categories and you don't use this 5-step program, this is one of the driving forces for every addict on the planet. They find themselves in one of these emotional frameworks, like the ones that we talked about on the bottom of the spectrum. And you find yourself feeling guilty or feeling shame or anger or fear. And instead of doing the 5 steps, instead of asking yourself, can I feel this emotion, right? Coping with it, dealing with it, letting the analytical mind slide in. What happens very often is that we pick up a bottle, or we pick up a needle, or we pick up a straw, or whatever our drug of choice or previous drug of choice turns out to be, because what we're really talking about here is a coping mechanism. You can call it letting go, and it's probably it's the best term, because when you hold on to something, it festers and it infects and it does all of the things. It's like a splinter, but the the way that a lot of people dealt with this for a lot of years is by using drugs. When we talk about the EQ, the emotional quotient of the average addict being so stunted, the fact that we stopped growing, the reason that we did is because instead of doing this, instead of dealing with these emotions as they come up and you don't know how to deal with them, you drug them. One of the easiest ways to make all of these things we're talking about go away and to just live your life in the neutral, because one of the biggest fallacies of drugs, especially for people who don't do them, is they're under the impression that we do drugs because it's going to keep us in the joy and the peace and the, man, we don't get to there. It's not what drug use does. It just simply keeps you from feeling any of these, right? There are no incredible highs and there are no incredible lows. You just drug yourself so that you go through life without really feeling any of these emotions. That's the reality of what happens if you're not plugging into some kind of a system to make this stuff go away. And the 5 steps that I just talked about are probably the healthiest thing that I've ever seen in terms of, as these things come up and you feel, think about it in these terms. From this point on, when you start feeling like that trigger is happening, because what did we say, Mark? We're 1/5 of a second, right? When that trigger comes up and you start going, damn, man, this is making me feel, okay, sit down and go through the 5 steps right then, because that is what somebody healthy, that's what somebody who is not living the life actually does. Deal with the emotion as it comes up. Deal with it before it becomes baggage and before it becomes something that you're going to hold on to for life. Substance abuse is often due to treating underlying issues that we ran away from. Absolutely. Remove the substance and now you have to deal with the problems from the substance and the underlying issues. No 2 ways about it.
Well said.
That is perfect.
Well said.
And once you've done that, and once you're now living in the moment and you are healthily working through your issues and all of the things from your past, because it's not a one-day event, it's something that you're going to work on probably for years, if not for your life. But as that's happening, and so says, Lester says this about you or that about you, and you start feeling a particular way, sit down, right? Evaluate the feeling. Well, Lester's got me feeling a little salty, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to get my breathing under control. I'm going to relax. Then I'm going to ask myself, can I feel angry? Can I feel this emotion? And go through these 5 steps. And what will happen is you're not going to be putting new crap into that bag that you've been carrying around for all of those years. And it is a tool to actually deal with the stuff that we've never dealt with before, because that is the problem. The problem is that in the past, our coping mechanism came by the gram or the ounce, right? Fluid ounce, powdered ounce, whatever the case may be.
I think
Seventh Son says truth.
Yep.
I like it.
Yep. And I think that, sometimes we talk about like people happy in their misery. Those are the people that negativity actually becomes their addiction.
No question.
And so when they're that far into that, they actually would have to do what we're talking about to get out of that, because they're not happy unless they're unhappy. And
at that point, it becomes a story and it becomes an identity. Exactly. And that is really what you want to avoid more than the plague, people, is allowing one of these issues to become a story, wrapping and creating this narrative about an emotion that you carry with you. And each time you meet him, hey, have you seen Lester? No, but he's going to tell you what he's PO'd about, right? He's going to tell you what's going on in his life. He's going to tell you how, his wife from 9 years ago did him dirty, right? Or his best friend's wife. There are times where people pick issues that don't even have anything to do with them, and it becomes their pet issue. And then it is literally their defining characteristic. And you know what? If Lester has any kind of personality at all, if he's got one of those personalities that draws people to him, then there'll be 8 people who just tell that story as well. Right. Yeah, man, you should have seen how his wife did him. Oh, Lord, here we go. So now I need to avoid Lester and the 6-pack of idiots that he carries around with him everywhere. You people know exactly what I'm talking about, because we all endure this. This last election is just a great example again of people that have made this thing a pet thing.
Yeah, a side effect of that is it makes, and that's why, we don't talk about politics or whatever here, but this doesn't just apply to politics. This applies to everything, in the fact that, this is this at the heart of this, what this will do is it'll make you very polarized. You're not able to come to the middle on anything. And,
Correct.
How many times have you ever heard somebody say, oh, that grouchy old man or that grouchy old woman, give him a pass? Well, no. There's no reason to be that. You don't have to live that way.
And so many times people will tell the story for him. Oh, that's your Uncle Lester. You realize that his wife did, he's just angry because he's angry because he allowed that to be. Truth said another great one. Truth said, those types of people want you to join in that miserable existence. And again, if they've got, if they're dynamic, even slightly, if they've got any kind of personality like that, there are always people ready to jump on the misery wagon because it's predictable. And like we said the other night, once you become addicted to a certain emotion, you'll seek it out. If your emotion is hate, it'll be your boss, it'll be your ex-wife, it'll be whoever, but you become so addicted to that one default emotion that you will seek it out in anything that you can find, or misery, or, feeling sorry for yourself. Everybody, there are people that just are perpetual victims. You talk to them and, Lester, what's going on with you? My boss just fired me, man. I was late 2 days. And one of the days I had here we go. Right? Third job he's lost. Every one of them, he's the victim. Because what people get addicted to a particular emotional state and they seek it out because it is, instead of like we talked about the other night, or maybe it was Sunday, but instead of getting into the river of the unknown, where all of those things are brand new to you, you will actually seek out emotions that are not healthy or fun because it's your default. It's what you're used to, and you find it from thing to thing. You watch, there are trolls who pick a different person to troll every 2 days because it's just what they do. They become so addicted to that sort of vitriol that they seek out wherever they can find it. It's just kind of a sad world.
They will actually voice it in the point to where they call it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes something that is so ingrained.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and at least it's what passes for it, because when you start.
Right. Yeah.
President Tommy Scoville, Vice President Mark Wages. Oh, Lord.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want them reins.
They've been known to do background checks on political parties like that. I'm not sure I could pass one. I want my default setting to be happiness, joy, and love. Fiona Crispin, I believe that those are your default settings. I think you're doing a beautiful job at that.
Yep, I agree. It's,
Oculi Mortis says these people should just let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I like that, Oculi. I'll tell you something. We got a 5-step program for it right here. People just tap into it. It's 5 steps.
It is.
Yep. Again, if it sounds too simple, try it. Give it a try. See if it doesn't work for you. And for those of you not taking notes, it will be here.
I tell you guys, I mean, this is the kind of conversations that are just awesome because...
Oh, look at Truth, man. Truth's hitting it out of the park, Mark. I'm sorry, but listen to this.
Go ahead.
The longer I live, the more I learn that we can actually choose our emotions. Hey, you know what? Right here.
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Truth. That is the comment of the day. Make no mistake about it. That is the comment of the day. Send me your contact information so I can whip you out a lifeboat sticker, because that right there is absolutely the comment of the day. You're right, my friend. And if you don't believe what Truth just said, tap into what we just talked about here, because there is no two ways about it. You choose your emotions. You don't choose what causes them, but you choose how you deal with it. And I have watched people who in any situation manage to remain positive. No matter what the situation is and no matter what life deals them, they play that hand and they do it with a smile, and that can be done. That can be done. I promise you.
Anybody
this literally works.
Anybody that's come over from my channel, you guys know how long I've been saying something similar to this for probably 2 years now. I say it a lot. Happiness is a choice. And this is exactly what I mean. I didn't.
No question.
I haven't put it in the eloquent terms that we have tonight, but this is exactly what I mean. You choose to be happy, even when the bad stuff is going on.
No question.
Matter of fact, that actually will help you get out of that bad situation. We don't make good decisions when we're angry, when we're mad or scared or fearful. We don't make, the knee-jerk reaction decisions that we make are always bad. Think about that. If you can, even if you can think about it for 2 or 3 seconds, just stop for a second and be like, okay, maybe I should be this, that, and this, or maybe I should try what we just talked about, because it doesn't take that long, guys. I'm literally, we talked about going out to your car and taking a break during like family get-togethers at the holidays. Take a second, go out to your car, do this, and I'm telling you guys, it'll make a difference. It really will. The whole mindset.
Sarah, normally, please do me a favor and email me. Just all you got to do is just email me and say hi. I would like to send you back an email, please. So just email me. Sarah, please, if you hear this, just shoot me an email as soon as the live feed is over. People, you know something? If you've ever had a chance, it's not something that is always pleasant, but I promise you it will change your life. Go and volunteer at a hospital. I swear to you. Spend 2 days. When I was going to get my license to work as an EMT, I had to spend time in a hospital, and you take shifts in different places, and we took a shift in oncology, and you go in and talk to people that are dying. There's no two ways about it. They know they're dying. And some of the happiest people I ever met in my life. Now, not all of them. There were people that definitely took the other route. But I remember going in and talking to people that loved life so much that every single second that they were alive, they weren't going to waste one of them feeling sorry for themselves. They weren't going to waste one of them being negative. And they literally lived every single minute as if it was their last. Like they were going to be happy for that minute because they didn't know if they had the next one. And it really puts your life in perspective. We've said it here before. It was an expression that my dad used to say all the time. I cried because I had no shoes until I saw a man that had no feet. And it is one of those things that, perspective is a beautiful thing in life. People, this is simple. It's 5 steps. And we talked about it here. Feel free to come back, watch Kim Skywalker. Don't think I have ever welcomed you to the lifeboat, but please let me take this opportunity to say, welcome to the lifeboat. We are happy to have you.
Yeah, she's a longtime subscriber, Wages World. She's a great person. Always positive. I mean, I can tell you guys that straight from the get. Always. Never nothing negative, ever. And she's in the right place. Let's put it to you that way. I'm glad she's here. Really am. So thanks for coming over, Kim Skywalker. I just call her Skywalker.
Yeah. Very happy to have you here. People, we ran a little bit long. Probably means a couple people are going to avoid this live feed, but you know what? Who cares? We're going to do another one tomorrow night. Between now and tomorrow morning, when we put up another video, tomorrow morning, I'll be one up there at 8 o'clock, people, because it's what we do. Between now and then, I would like you to all do what we always do, which is just reach out and try to save somebody. It's what we do. Thank you so much, people. Really appreciate all of the conversation. It was great today. You guys are the bomb. I am Captain Tommy Scoble, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
We will see you tomorrow. This was great. Good night, everybody.